Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Cloud Wars Live. We're exploring the digital revolution and also some of the forces that help shape this digital revolution and any sort of revolution in important ways, and that's leadership. And one of our new monthly guests on Cloud Wars Live is Christian Anschuetz, who's been a CDO, a CIO, definitely an entrepreneur, captain in the Marine Corps, and definitely a builder, creator, adventurer. I described him last time as cuddly. We've had some fun laughing about that a little. I'll leave that up to Christian and the rest of you to think about. But Christian, welcome back to Cloud Wars Live. It's fantastic to have you.
Okay. All right. There's that cuddly thing again. Okay. So Bob, here is testimony and something, testimony to the reach of your show, and also testimony that your sponsors will love. I must have gotten 50 messages from people that just out of nowhere spontaneously addressed their emails to me as cuddly, Mr. Cuddly, oh so cuddly, and any number of different things. So thank you for that. I do appreciate that new moniker. I've been called worse, just to be clear. So cuddly is actually kind of an upgrade. Yet, as we talked about last time, a little unexpected, but thank you.
Well, maybe cuddly is at the far end of it, but approachable, warm, intensely genuine. And Christian, I think the theme that has been running through the episodes here that you'll be involved with, and Anschuetz on leadership, right? A lot of people get different senses of what leadership means today, and if for some of the young folks who are watching or listening, they're thinking, I aspire to being beyond a contributor to being a manager. And I think you've always got great insights about what separates managers from leaders and the importance of that. Down the road, I know we'll get to talk about some things involving culture, but I really loved a couple of the ideas that you were enthusiastic for today's discussion, and one of which is a pet peeve that you wanted to address, and then that'll lead into a second topic. But talk about this pet peeve you've got and why it matters so much.
So I'll gladly do that, Bob. Thank you. So for anybody that's not following this podcast, let me just do the same disclaimer that I did at the last one. So if this is your first time in, it should be Anschuetz is a student of leadership as opposed to somebody who sits on high and thinks they are the ultimate leader. I don't think any of us should claim that. And if we do, we might have more sort of personal introspection that we should pursue over the days, months, and years ahead. And then that said, the question for me was, what is that leadership pet peeve? This is something, Bob, you and I talked about, this idea of pet peeves. And last time it was the misuse of the word I. And this one, well, it starts with the word I, but it's different. And the pet peeve here, and bear with me, it takes just a second to get to, is leaders that don't understand the concept of leading with intent. Now, leading with intent. Now, this is something, I don't wear my Marine Corps badge on me everywhere. I'm much more complex. We're all way more complex than any one thing. Yes, I'm a United States Marine. I will always be. And one of the things I learned in the Marine Corps is the concept of leadership through intent. And it is this incredibly powerful tool that has served me very, very well and continues to serve me very, very well outside of the military context. And this is the idea where you express an intent. Our intent is to achieve this to go in this direction to achieve this outcome. And when you speak at a level like that, when you speak in the language of intent, what you do is you empower, two words that we use a lot in business, but actually, candidly, we seldom back up. You enable the people that work for you to find the way to achieve your intent without any prescription from you. Okay. And so the reason why I hit on this is because usually what you get is my pet peeve is I hate micromanagers. I hate that there's a lack of trust. I hate this, that, the other thing. Those are my leadership pet peeves. And really what that is, that all bubbles up to the fact that the leader doesn't understand how to lead with intent, doesn't even know how to formulate it. And what you get then at the very, very best is a manager. They're not a leader, they're a manager. And that's another subject for another day. But leaders that do not understand to lead with intent is pet peeve number 2.
And where does that come from, Christian, right? Do you learn this? Do some people are born with it? And how then, however they come about that capability, how is it best conveyed to others and so that other people buy into it?
Yeah, I think, Bob, we all know how to do it. It's just, it's like the rest of life. There's a no do gap, right? What we know and what we do are often entirely two different things, right? And so, I mean, leading with intent, let's just say you're in charge of 10 people. That number could be 100, it could be 1,000, it could be 100,000, right? If you have to tell the people that work for you what to do in order to do their job, then either you are the wrong person or you have hired the wrong team. And you simply have to figure that out. What's most important is that they understand where it is that you, or more importantly, the organization, your shareholders, your stakeholders, whoever it is, whoever owns that mission, that they understand where they need to go. And then this is really important. And I'm channeling little bit of Simon Sinek here. They understand the why. Give them that purpose, give them that why. And the two things, the intent with a why that, fuse together to create something really, hopefully, if done well, compelling, will cause your people to go, to new heights and execute. And they don't have to do it with your continuous oversight of prodding and directing and whatnot, simply because you trust them to execute against what your intent is. That's not to say we don't follow up. It's not to say that we don't continue to, be involved in the process in some way. But what we do avoid is we avoid those monikers that we hear again in different ways, which is, my boss micromanages me, I'm not trusted to do my job. Oh, I was doing this thing and then I was told a better way. And the person that was telling me really doesn't have my expertise, et cetera.
Well, Kristen, you do some work with some universities, and is this something that's ever touched on there? And if it is it done well? If it isn't, should it be?
Wow, you ask a great question. I have yet to hear the subject. I haven't done any leadership courses, as you know, between what I do for at the business school, the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, and then of course I'm actually enrolled, if you can believe this, even at my advanced age, and the School of Management at Yale University. I haven't done any quote unquote leadership studies, so maybe it is covered there. I haven't seen it. But those are two good universities, and there's thousands more of other great universities where they probably do cover this, but maybe they don't. Candidly, I don't actually see too many people. And I'm going to turn the question around to you. I don't see too many people that don't have a military background that actually understand the concept of leadership of intent. Although I have met some. What's your perspective on this? You've worked some really powerful CEOs in the past. What did they do in this regard? What did you learn?
Yeah, well, Kristen, one of the first times I heard somebody, I think, address this, not in that precise language, but I thought it was very well done as, I don't know, 20 years ago. I say everything else 20 years ago, but it could be, for me, 70 years ago, 90 years ago, but let's say 20 years ago. We did some work with Jack Welch, and he was describing the roles of leadership, and he said he said we can overcomplicate this. You can make it a series of 3 textbooks and all that. He said the big things leaders have to do, it's pretty simple. The number one thing, he said, how do you take the uncertainty out of the situation? And I think what you're describing is one of the ways, the uncertainty that my boss in charge doesn't let me do this or that, because there's this fog in the middle, right? There's an uncertainty, and the person who's supposed to be the leader believes that because he or she has a certain title or has been given a certain rank and a certain office. And I think Tony Uphoff was talking about, he remembers a day, one company he was in, a guy was staring at the ceiling in Tony's office, and Tony asked him, what are you doing? He said, well, you have more ceiling tiles in your office than I have in mine, but we have the same title. So I'm going to talk to somebody about that. It's just, so Chris, and I believe it's probably as much something that people are born with. I'm not saying it cannot be learned, but if somebody doesn't have at least a strong sense of that innately, I doubt that anybody ever said to Jack Welch, this is, write this down. This is what leaders should do. I think he learned that because he found that you can't be effective, you can't be efficient, you can't be productive, you can't be innovative if people are always sitting back in this fog of uncertainty, because right, if you get into that situation, you're certainly not going to try to do your best work. You're going to sort of hunker down and, don't be the person who gets called out, and let me just, do what's expected of me, but nothing beyond that.
We should have started with you. Gosh darn it. Because if you were about to tune out, folks, don't tune out, because Bob just hit two important points. First, Jack Welch is a classic example of someone who led with intent. Now, you do not have to agree with the intent. That's not the point of this. But he said we would be number one or number two in every single market or segment we participated in. And he said, go. He didn't tell them, okay, you're going to do this, you're going to acquire that, you're going to move into this segment, you're going to take over that geo. He did not do that. He said, you are going to be number one and number two. And what made him successful is that he followed that intent up with a relentless, let's call it a hard assness. I mean, he was a hard charger, right, wrong, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not condoning nor condemning. That's not my role here. But those two things he did, and his leadership with intent was superb. But hold on, that gets to Bob, your other point. The question of leadership is, are you born with it innately, and can you be trained in it? It's like most things. I think maybe we're born with a disposition to be maybe better at some things than others. But I mean, if you could teach a monkey like me how to, paint, you can teach someone to do anything, right? And so, and I say that because go back to Jack Welch. GE under Jack Welch made a dedicated and determined effort to invest in their people, and they put together a series of programs, and let's call them universities, if you will. I forget if it was called GE University, maybe it was. Some of your listeners, please correct us on this. But there was a name for these universities, and they taught many things, but they taught leadership. And so this is actually one of my greatest criticisms of leaders in, whoever our leaders are today, particularly in the corporate and public sector.
Yeah.
They never, ever sought to learn leadership. They just assumed they had it. And so what you have is a bunch of people that they're not leaders, but they carry a title. And then with that title, they expect a mantle of respect. But respect is given to great leaders, and you can learn. You might be born with certain attributes that make you more likely to be a good leader, perhaps. But I know for a fact you can be taught leadership, and everybody who purports to be a leader should be a student of leadership. And their first job number one for any leader is constant improvement on themselves. And as we're looking at like my roadmap to develop this business, my roadmap to transform this activity or whatever, the most important roadmaps we sometimes need to have is, what is our roadmap to become better leaders of the organizations and the institutions that we're a part of?
Yeah. Christian, when I had worked at Oracle, one of the things that came into the organization when I was there was that I found it was a cultural thing, that the organization, prior to my arrival, what they believed, what the intent that they had internalized was, you sit there and wait until you're told what to do, and then you execute on it. Be a service organization. And my view was, no, there's nothing wrong with that. But in this company, in these times, and with the capabilities we have and the responsibilities we have, we need to become an active force of innovation and value creation. And it was interesting because there were a lot of people who said, well, they were concerned about repercussions. What if we do this and it's not approved? What if we do this and somebody says, hey, you're not allowed to do that? And I said, this is part of the adventure, right? There are not people in the software development organization at Oracle who sit around being scared to death of being innovative, and neither should we be. And I think what I tried to impart to people there was the notion of, this is a choice, right? This is a very personal choice, and the intent that we have to become part of the greatness of the company, part of the A team of the company, doing things above and beyond to dazzle and delight customers. That's our job. And if we choose to sit around and wait, then we're going to miss out on that. And I don't know, maybe we get a second crack at life. I don't know anybody who can prove it one way or the other, but I'm going to assume that we don't. So let's not sit around and squander this opportunity to do phenomenal things and be part of that of the part of the group that does things that are dazzling, that achieve those things. So the intent that we tried to instill there was something that was, pretty powerful. But I think a lot of people were, I don't say they were cowed, but they had been conditioned in some way. So when you talk, Christian, about this ongoing training for people who want to be leaders, your own self-definition there. This isn't Anschuetz on leadership. This is Anschuetz as a student of leadership, even though you've been in some incredibly powerful leadership roles. I think that's true because it involves people, it involves the pace of change, it involves what's going on in the world today and how fast things are happening and understanding the fluid nature of organizations and so forth. So yeah, you have changed my mind. I do think it is something that the finer aspects of it can be learned and should be taught, both at companies and universities and whatever organizations feel they want to have that higher purpose intent.
Well, I can also add an exclamation point to it. So there's a number of reasons why people say join the military, and then as a subset of the military, it takes a special kind of character, a special woman or man that wants to join the Marine Corps. But not everybody that joins the Marine Corps was born a leader. Yet the Marine Corps is absolutely steadfast committed to making sure that they have a pervasive leadership model. So hold on for a second, everybody. There's people listening right now that are going, hey, Bob, this Christian doesn't know what he's talking about. The military, it's command and control. There's somebody up high and then they tell them what to do and then they just scurry off like good little troopers and they do it. And that would be absolutely the kind of thing that someone that's never been in the Marine Corps might say. And it's completely, utterly wrong. The Marine Corps teaches every single individual how to be a leader. So much so I could, like I'm seeing you right now. I remember standing at attention almost in a line going through boot camp with a book in front of my face, waiting for chow. And then we take a step forward when it was our turn. And then we take a step forward and the line was like a half a mile long. The entire time that book was in our face and we were reading and memorizing the Marine Corps leadership principles and traits. And the point of it is you have to have a standard. Now, you have to start somewhere. And they would teach everybody what it meant to be a leader and how a leader was measured, right? And this is really important because for the people that think the military is command and control, guess what? As soon as you go from a private at, let's say 18, let's just say you're 18 years old, because the Marine Corps requires you to have a high school diploma, and you become a PFC, which can happen in months, all of a sudden you can be in charge of people. By the time you're a Lance Corporal, could be a year to 18 months, now you're in charge of people. Now, in 2 years, you're a corporal. You are definitely in charge of people, and your rank is now a non-commissioned officer. Okay, so this becomes important, folks, for our organizations, and it speaks to intent. Because when people lead, when they actually lead, then they act, they move, right? So let me tell you how it works on a battlefield. Shots are fired. Any plan you think you had is gone. It's out the window. And every single person that's part of your unit had better be making good decisions based on where they are, what they're doing, and they are not waiting for you, lieutenant, captain, major, whatever, to do it. Because if they do, they're dead. And so these folks have to be good leaders. So the reason why I'm not trying to belabor the military point, but we need to make every single person in our respective organizations leaders. Now, you can be a thought leader, you can be a personnel leader, you can be a strategic leader. There's all sorts of different kinds of leaders. But we shouldn't think it's just some small subset of an organization that's leaders. Because if you are doing that, if that's how you think of your business, well, let's go back a couple episodes, Bob. Well, you're that organization that's got 2 feet in that tar pit of fate, and you are going to go extinct. And candidly, again, if that's how you operate, please do your shareholders, your stakeholders, and your employees a favor. Go retire to some nicer grounds and maybe take a little bit of time to reflect on how you can become a better leader to help your people do as well.
Yeah, Christian, I love that. That's I think a big, powerful exclamation point, for people to consider on this. So along with this, you've mentioned a couple of times this notion of continuous improvement, right? Because leading, maintaining the lead, those sorts of things, not standing still. You talked about that thing of action, decisiveness, and in some ways the confidence, to go forward. But it seems, Christian, that everybody, I believe, would say that continuous improvement is a good thing. But for lots of people, lots of organization, it remains more a theory rather than something that they're able to lock down and put into practice. So is intent a necessary ingredient of this continuous improvement, and how does that play out?
Well, if you express intent, and intent varies based on your level, it's perfectly good for Jack Welch to say number one or number two in a market. If you're in charge of, let's say, a small department, your intent's going to be a lot more specific. But regardless, your intent needs to be something that is, okay, we're here in the goal post, whatever it is, you articulate it, and we're going to get to whatever the goal post is without, again, stating explicitly what each play is to move the ball down every single yard and so forth. Sorry for the sports analogy. I don't know where it came from. It just kind of popped up. So the idea, though, is to get from point A to point B, you have to have a certain amount of activity and let's be very clear, progress. Now, the best thing we can do is have progress in improving our progress. Right? I mean, would you agree that we could keep doing the same thing, 10 plays to get down to the goal line, but doing it at 9 might be better. Doing it at 8. By the way, this reminds me, real quick, an aside, I always heard of this 7-minute workout. And then I heard someone joking about how they improved it and they got it down to a 6-minute workout. No joke. Somebody has been doing this continuous improvement so well. I was just down in Pittsburgh and I saw a gym that was the 3-minute workout. Now, this is somebody that really understands Six Sigma, right? Because they've just completely changed the business so much that it's over twice as good as the original 7-minute workout. And now I joke there, that is kind of the point. The problem with the way organizations often do this is they do it in the language of Six Sigma. You know Six Sigma, we all know Six Sigma. They've got green belts, yellow belts. They use weird archaic language, Muda, Kanbans. I know every Six Sigma person out here is rolling over. They're like, oh my God, you just called my language archaic. Actually, folks, it is. That's why nobody actually really wants to do it. You're introducing an entirely new language in an already super complicated life of the people that are trying to already do a good job for your respective companies. They got enough internal burden with all your training and all this other junk that they have to do just to be able to service the customer. Go ahead. Let's lump on some Six Sigma on top of it. By the way, I love Six Sigma. Bob, I know you're laughing. I can see it here. Obviously, I love Six Sigma, but I don't like the way that it's rolled out. I'll give you another better way of doing it, right? How about a simple statement? There is no action without an after action. Let me be a little clear. Whenever we do anything of note, from a strategic thing, merger and acquisition, we acquire somebody, to a small project, what did this exploratory session with this customer, how did that go? There should be a group of people that get together and do an after action that simply said, okay, how did it go? What went well? What went less well or poorly? What did we need to start doing that we failed to do? And what just bombed and we should stop altogether? A basic SWOT analysis. But this is important, Bob, because it's simple. The words are after action. In fact, it's kind of intuitive. We get it. And then the whole idea of no action without an after action implies that if you did that, now you have a habit. So if you had a habit of having a frank conversation about how every single thing went, every major thing it went, and by the way, when you get good at it, it happens in minutes. It's not a 60-minute meeting, for crying out loud. We have enough of those in our days, right? You can do it very, very quick, but you have candid feedback. And then the next time you do it, it improves.
Kristen, that's a terrific point. And actually that leads right into what we're going to talk about here with a word from our sponsor, BMC. BMC wants to know, is your business on its A game? That's when systems are intelligent by learning from markets where automation is paramount yet effortless, and when technology and people work as one in an enterprise. The A game is your business at its absolute best. BMC calls this the autonomous digital enterprise. Find out more at bmc.com/A-game.
I know we want to get to culture at some point. That's probably a future discussion, but you have to have a culture that embraces that kind of feedback. You have to have a culture of courage and not one of fear. And now, again, very candidly, Bob, in a somewhat provocative fashion, most organizations don't have a culture of courage. They have a culture of fear. So again, full circle back to leaders. What kind of culture do you have? What are you leading? And how do you assess whether you're courageous and can have and embrace the notion that everybody in your organization is a leader, and that they can give feedback even to you and say, hey, Bob, I don't really think the way this this podcast went that well today. I think you need to improve that, and that you actually accept it versus shut it down because you're in a position of authority.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not talking about my hair, are you?
No, you look fantastic. I'm
Uh,
I'm I'm the one that probably needs of a shave here.
well, Chris, I'm going to be a teeny bit careful talking about this, but there is a very big software company, and the founder's been there for decades, and the people refer to him by his last name and an honorific that is in front of his last name. And I just don't, I don't, I don't get it. I mean, some of these people have been there 15, 20 years, and I just think it speaks this thing of culture. I don't know if this person ever said, hey, everybody has to call me this. I'll call you by your first name, you call me that. But to me, it says something about the culture there of, I think they're having some trouble keeping up with what's going on in the world. And I think part of that is a reflection of the fear of like, people are just afraid to say certain things. If you can't call the founder of the company by, his first name, because there's this unegalitarian culture that runs through that, you're sure as hell not going to point someone out and say, our products aren't where they should be. We're behind on this. Somebody's kicking our ass over here. The customers that used to spend this much money with us every quarter are cutting that back by a little bit. So yeah, the culture weaves into it so much. And then if you instill these after action initiatives in a company where, as you said, it's driven by fear rather than by courage, then they're not going to be very productive, are they? Right? They're going to be a lot of, let's check the boxes. We had the after action report. We all said something. It wasn't helpful, but we did the after action report. And then the next one will be no improvement, not much improvement, little improvement, little improvement. Meanwhile, your competitors are whipping your ass for you. So it's a powerful cycle.
It's a question. I mean, the question I would have for you and this person that I have absolutely no idea who you're talking about. The thing is that title, the honorific, is that respect, or is it, however, a means of, well, let me just put it this way. It could be issued because of respect, and that's fantastic. In fact, we just simply need to have more respect for one another, and that right there would help us perform much, much better. But let's just say it's respect. It becomes a problem, however, if that person, instead of respect, it's a position of control. So, hey, look, I work for a company that, anything I want to do, any new product I want to launch into the marketplace, well, I got to go up 10 layers until I get to honorific so-and-so. Right? Because if that's what's happening, then guess what? You got 3 legs in that tar pit, and you're in a very, very competitive market, and you are going to sink to the bottom. And it doesn't matter how big you are, how many islands never mind. No matter how big you are, that you're just going to get beat by somebody. The power of the organization, and that organization in particular, and for everybody listening, I actually don't know who it is. I'm making some assumptions and having some fun with this on my own. Is the organization's power isn't in that one person. It's in everybody else that works there. And when that person who is using, has the honorary title, if it's just for the honorary title and they enable those people, they're gonna do better than the organization where it's a point of control.
Yeah. And it's these times, I think, Christian, these points you're bringing out about, leading with insight, continuous improvement, the honesty and candor and respect that go into the action report, so that you can talk about things that are meaningful instead of just sort of, the mealy mouth check, box checking that says we did this, but nothing comes of it. it's always been essential, but what's happening today and the way the world's moving, the way the market's moving, the way the business world is moving, certainly the tech business is changing like this. All these things that you're describing here, the leadership with intent to enable so many good things to happen within the organization, a lot of that self-driven behavior, the after action reports to understand things. How do we continuously improve, make sure we're doing better, make sure we're moving faster, make sure, in tighter connection with the people that really matter on the customer side and on the employee side. It is an art that if it is lost in some companies today, nobody has like 9, 12, 15, 18 months to try to fix this and recover. The death spirals are happening in a shorter and more compressed and steeper way than ever before. So Christian, I think you've raised some great points here today, and I look forward to maybe next time following up a little bit more of some of the cultural angles that you described.
Yeah, and I look forward to that conversation, and to all the listeners here. If you want to hear more about, maybe in our next episode, we talk about how to create a culture of courage, and one that can be very introspective and strive to continuously improve, and one that is enabled with pervasive leadership. Leave some comments for Bob, and please omit any more references to me as cuddly. I'm kidding. I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Well, Christian, that's great. Now, I'm glad you got a lot of that feedback too, right? From some people, and maybe tell me, maybe we'll do this each episode. I'll try to think of what is the quality about Christian that I can slip out here. We'll see how many people listen to follow up with. But
well, I'm sure it'll go from cuddly to pejoratives very, very quickly. So, but I got thick skin, so I can handle it.
All right, Christian, thanks a million. This was terrific as always. Good to see you, and I will try to incorporate your editing there, Anschuetz, student of leadership. How about that?
Well, that would be great. I leave it in your good hands because, Bob, I trust you.
Couldn't ask for more than that, my friend. Thank you, Christian. Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right, and thanks, folks, to all of you. Thanks for being with us here at Cloud Wars Live. We'll have more leadership insights from Christian next month. In the meantime, I hope things are going great for you. Springtime is here. It's wonderful. Enjoy it. We'll see you soon.